Have you ever wondered why some gardens thrive with almost no effort, while others struggle despite constant watering and fertilizing? The secret isn't in the plants themselves, but in the design of the system they live in. In the world of permaculture, we don't just grow vegetables, we design ecosystems. Today, we are exploring 5 fundamental permaculture designs that can provide an abundance of food for a family of 4. But here's the most important lesson I've learned in over a decade of practice. A perfect design in one environment can be a total failure in another. To truly feed your family sustainably, you must learn to adapt these models to your specific landscape, whether you are dealing with scorching sun, biting frost, or tropical humidity. Let's start with the most iconic of all permaculture systems, the layered food forest. In a natural forest, no one goes out to spread fertilizer or spray pesticides, yet it remains the most productive system on Earth. We mimic this by planting in 7 vertical layers, from tall canopy trees down to root crops and ground covers. However, the architecture of your food forest must change based on your local light and humidity. If you are in a high-heat, arid environment, your primary goal is to create a cool cell. You want a dense, overlapping canopy that shades the soil and reduces evaporation. Here, you prioritize thick-leaved species that can withstand the sun while protecting the delicate berries and greens growing beneath them. Contrast this with a cool, temperate climate where sunlight is a precious resource. In these regions, a dense canopy would be a mistake. Instead, we design in a sun trap or horseshoe shape, open to the direction of the midday sun to capture every bit of warmth and light. In the humid tropics, space is your challenge. You leverage verticality using fast-growing nitrogen-fixing trees as living trellises for vines and climbing peppers. By understanding your local light, you turn a simple collection of trees into a self-sustaining food engine. Once you have your perennial canopy established, you need a highly efficient way to grow your annual vegetables. This brings us to the keyhole garden. Traditionally, this is a circular raised bed with a notched path that looks like a keyhole from above, allowing you to reach every part of the garden without ever stepping on and compacting the soil. At the very center sits a composting basket. This is the beating heart of the garden where you deposit your kitchen scraps. But let's look at how we adapt this to your temperature and resources. In regions with long, cold winters, your keyhole garden should be built with thermal mass in mind. By using dark stones or heavy bricks for the outer walls, the garden absorbs heat during the day and radiates it back into the soil at night, effectively extending your growing season. If you are in a hot, dry environment, you might flip the design entirely and create a sunken keyhole. By digging the garden into the earth rather than raising it, you protect the root systems from drying winds and allow gravity to help you collect moisture. The central composting basket also changes. In dry areas, you keep it packed with moisture-retaining materials to act as a slow-release sponge for your plants. Design number 3 involves moving away from stationary beds and integrating animals through a mobile nutrient cycle, often called a chicken tractor. Animals are the great accelerators of a permaculture system. A family of 4 can be easily supported by a small flock of chickens that provide eggs and eventually meat. But their most important job is soil engineering. By using a bottomless mobile coop, you place your birds over a specific patch of ground that needs preparation. They eat the weeds, scratch the soil, and leave behind high nitrogen fertilizer. Once they move to the next spot, the ground is perfectly prepared for planting. It's the ultimate permaculture synergy. As we move closer to the kitchen door, we look at the herb spiral. This is a masterpiece of microclimate engineering, allowing you to grow a vast array of culinary and medicinal herbs in a tiny footprint. By building a stone or brick spiral that rises about 3 feet high, we create multiple niches in one structure. The top is dry, sunny, and drains quickly, perfect for Mediterranean herbs like rosemary or thyme that hate wet feet. The bottom is cool, moist, and shaded, creating a haven for mint, parsley, or watercress. The way you orient this spiral depends entirely on your hemisphere and local winds. In a wind-prone area, the spiral acts as a localized windbreak. By observing which side of your house receives the most morning light versus harsh afternoon heat, you can position your spiral to act as a heat sink or a cooling element for your patio. It is a lesson in how geometry can replace irrigation and climate control. The fifth design addresses the bloodstream of the system, water management, and earthworks. No matter how much rain or how little rain you get, the goal of permaculture is the same: slow, spread, and sink. If your land has any slope at all and experiences heavy seasonal rains, you should implement swales. These are trenches dug exactly on the contour of the land, backed by a mound of soil where you plant your trees. When it rains, the water is caught in the trench, forced to stop its downhill rush, and encouraged to soak deep into the underground water battery of your soil. However, if your land is dead flat and extremely arid, swales won't help you. Instead, you might use sunken beds or waffle gardens. For families in urban environments with almost no land, these principles still apply through vertical permaculture. When you lack horizontal space, you use your walls and fences. A few vertical pallets or a tiered shelving system can produce enough nutrient-dense greens, like spinach, kale, and bok choy, to supplement a family's diet daily. The key here is stacking functions. A vertical herb wall on a balcony can also act as a privacy screen and a solar buffer, keeping your home cooler in the summer. As a practitioner for over a decade, my final piece of advice is this: start in Zone 1. That is the area right outside your door that you see every single day. Don't try to build a 5-acre food forest in your first month. Start with a small herb spiral or a single keyhole garden. Observe how the water moves when it rains. Watch where the frost lingers in the morning and where the sun hits hardest in the afternoon. Permaculture is 90% observation and 10% physical work. When you design based on the unique characteristics of your own patch of earth, the work of gardening begins to disappear, replaced by the simple joy of harvesting. If you are ready to take the first step from being a consumer to being a producer, I invite you to join our community. Subscribe to Perma to Plate, and in our next session, we will dive deep into the specific blueprints for building your first climate-adapted food forest. Let's grow abundance together.